Okay, so let's go into this poem Marina by T.S. Eliot. There's a Latin quote with which the poem begins: Qui hic locus qua regio qua mundi plaga, which simply means that what is this place, what is the location, in which location am I in, what is the region, and what place on earth am I. So it begins with a question. It begins with a bewildered person trying to locate himself or herself in the geographical space that he or she finds himself in. By the way, Marina actually might mean a place by the sea, might mean a street by the sea, a road by the sea, a path by the sea, or simply a beach. Okay, so this place, as we know, is a place of the sea. We can, talk about the sea. Or T.S. Eliot perhaps went for a vacation, and he was walking by the sea, and this poem stuck his mind. Maybe he went to an exotic location, and he could not understand. He could not comprehend the new features that perhaps he was seeing, and hence he might be asking these existential questions. Now, if I when I say existential questions, what I mean to say is that these questions are very vital. These questions are these questions can be considered very important. Important in what sense? Important in the sense of our own location in terms of the vast universe within which we are operating. We do not know in which location we are. We do not know what region we inhabit. We do not know what place on earth or what place on in the universe we are in. Um, this is a deterministic view of the universe where we are not sure of the places that we are seeing at this point in time. We are not sure about the uh, about our place in the entire universe. Sometimes philosophers ask this question to themselves, and we as human beings can ask this question to ourselves as to why we are here, why on Earth, why the third planet from the sun, why this solar system, why not somewhere else, why was I born in this situation, okay, and why not some other situation. So I believe this is also a question of the babies who are born recently. They they might ask the same question: why here, what region, what place on earth am I? And this bewilderment might create a kind of a confusion in the mind of the babies, mind of the newborns, who do not know this place, this terrain, and they are confused, and hence they are crying. Okay, but of course this is just one interpretation. This is one way of looking at this these questions. But then there are other questions following, and these are in English. What seas, what shores, what grey rocks, and what islands? What water lapping the bow, and scent of pine, and the wood thrush singing through the fog? What images return, O my daughter? So, this poem is a more personal utterance, because here we find T.S. Eliot's daughter is mentioned here. And perhaps this poem was not written when T.S. Eliot was on a vacation, or when he was on a tour, and when he was uh, visiting a beach, but rather this poem could be a kind of a recollection. If you remember Wordsworth's theory of poetry, that poetry is spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings and emotions recollected in tranquility. Perhaps here, when T.S. Eliot is done with his vacation, or when they are looking at a picture, maybe they are, he and his daughter are reminiscing, he and his daughter are becoming nostalgic, and they are uh, talking amongst each other, and they might be talking about the sea that they visited, the rocks, the islands, and the water that was touching their feet, and a scent of pine, because there could be pine trees by the sea, and then there was this bird, wood thrush, which was singing through the fog. And this creates a sense of a mystery, this creates a sense of an ambiguity, this creates a sense of a haze that is very common in modern poetry, that is very common in modern literature. Sense of haze, you do not know where the wood thrush is singing from, you cannot see the wood thrush, but you can hear it, because this wood thrush is singing from the fog, singing through the fog. These images are returning, as I pointed out, that perhaps they are imagining, perhaps they are talking about a an adventure, and an outing, and now they are sitting together by a fire, perhaps, and they are remembering all these things that they had heard, that they had seen. So all these uh, senses are working together, and by the singing one could realize what bird it is. Like um, we can identify a cuckoo bird, we can identify kokil by its sweet um, complaints, and a crow by its call. So wood thrushes, I don't know. I don't know if I know wood thrush and how it sings, but they can identify the wood thrush with the sense of their ears. There could be an aspect of synesthesia here. Synesthesia is a poetic device where one sense is referred to by another sense, where one sense is used in instead of another sense. So I think that might be happening here, but I'm not sure. So this could be a point in your critical appreciation that T.S. Eliot is using synesthesia. T.S. Eliot is invoking or alluding to the theory of Wordsworth about the emotions recollected in tranquility. Those who sharpen the tooth of the dog, meaning death, those who glitter with the glory of the hummingbird, meaning death, those who sit in the sty of contentment, meaning death, those who suffer the ecstasy of the animals, meaning death. Now, this is cryptic, this is essential T.S. Eliot. He is now uh, talking philosophy, or maybe he is now talking something that we could hardly comprehend. Why would somebody sharpen the tooth of a dog, and why does it mean death? And the same for the glitter of the glory of the hummingbird. I mean, what is the glory of the hummingbird and glitter? Maybe a hummingbird, if you have seen a hummingbird even in the TV, you might have seen that there are its feathers glow, its feathers are multicolored. Not all hummingbirds, but there are few hummingbirds whose feathers glow. There's a kind of a multicolored body of the hummingbird. So uh, it glitters, and there's a glory about the hummingbird, but it means death. So in a paradoxical statement, glitter, glory, and death are kept together in a single sentence, which creates a jarring effect, which creates a kind of a paradoxical, antithetical idea in our mind. And those who sit in the sty is the place where a pig sits, where a pig lives. of contentment. Those who are like pigs, those who are contented with their lives, it means death. And those who suffer the ecstasy of animals, it also means death. Let's try to decode what T.S. Eliot had packed for us. Now, dog is usually considered as an animal which can be used for hunting. I mean, once upon a time, dogs were used as companions of hunters who would point towards a particular animal, who would point towards a particular quarry, and the shooter will follow the dog, and the dog will capture the bird or the rabbit or other animal, even a stag maybe. And from our Metamorphosis, I'm sure you have read Metamorphosis in your undergraduate days, we have seen um, that Actaeon was turned into a stag, was turned into a deer, and the dogs hunted, killed Actaeon, his own dogs. So, dog there meant unbridled passion, unbridled, uncontrolled sexual desire, or will to power, whatever you call it. So, it might lead to the death, and death could be of various categories. Death could be spiritual, death could be of the body, death could be of the soul, so on and so forth. And those who glitter with the glory of the hummingbird. Um, a hummingbird has actually a very short span of life. One of the reasons for their short spans of life is that they use a lot of energy to fly back. Hummingbird is perhaps the only bird that can fly backwards. It has a back gear, unlike the auto rickshaws. So, so if you live like a hummingbird, you are glorious, you look very beautiful, you are very energetic, but the more energy you have, the, at a greater pace will your end come. I think that is what is being meant here, but this is a very cryptic line. I don't know what T.S. Eliot was thinking and why he associated the glory of the hummingbird with death. But what I know is that hummingbirds have very short span of life, and one of the reasons for that is they spend a lot of energy trying to fly backwards. I don't know why they fly backwards, but they do that, and they are completely dependent upon the nectar from the flowers. They have like these long beaks, and they take they take the nectar from the flowers, and they drink that. There might be some mythology, there might be some allusion to the hummingbird, but I don't know what that is. And the next line, those who sit in the sty of contentment. So once you are contented with life, once you think that you have done enough with your life, once you think that there is nothing left to achieve anymore, then I guess your life is over. George Bernard Shaw once said that if you think that you have achieved what you wanted to achieve and you do not have anything else to achieve anymore, then consider your life to be over. So I think T.S. Eliot and Shaw were kind of contemporaries, and I think that is what is being meant here. But it could be interpreted in any way, and every interpretation could be correct. And those who suffer the ecstasy of animals, meaning death. So whoever gives into a wild enjoyment of life, anybody who indulges in a lot of merriment and indulges in a lot of wild pleasures, and anybody who indulges in sort of uh, you know um, hedonism, like animals do. Animals are instinctual beings, and they do not think about the future that much, but they do actually. And they just live by their instinct. So T.S. Eliot is perhaps trying to say that if you live by your instincts, and if you live like an animal, if you indulge in the ecstasies that the animals indulge in, uh, it would mean the death. It would mean the death of the more uh, composed and calm philosophical mind if you indulge in your physical activities, if you indulge in bodily pleasures too much. Are become unsubstantial, reduced by a wind, a breath of pine, and the wood song fog, by the grace by this grace dissolved in place. Are become, look at the strange grammatic structure here, strange use of grammar. Are become, not have become. Are become, because I think the subject is those people, those who sharpen, those who glitter, those who sit, those who suffer. Okay, and there is of course a very strange figure of speech placed here. This is called the epanaphora. Epanaphora is a figure of speech where the same word or phrase is repeated at the beginning of each line, each successive line. So those who, that constitutes an epanaphora. And this is a style of T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot was always using this kind of a repetition, prickly pear, prickly pear, prickly pear. Of uh, it was Holloman, right? So anyway, so these people have become unsubstantial. They are reduced by the wind, a breath of pine. The pine tree mentioned earlier, a wind coming through it, a wind coming through the forests, makes all of this sound, make all of this appear insubstantial, unsubstantial. All those people who sharpen the tooth of the dog, or who glitter in the glory of the hummingbird, or who sit in the sty of contentment, etc., they become unsubstantial. Or even, or the wood song, the wind, the breath of the pine, or the grace that is dissolved in place. Grace is a religious term here, grace is a religious word here. And according to Eliot, Eliot was a Catholic person. Um, Later he became Anglican, or first he was Anglican and then he became Catholic. I'm not sure about this, but he did change his faith a bit. But he was religious, he was deeply religious, and he believed that the place that we are talking about, the marina that we are talking about, has grace dissolved in it. Okay, so oh oh my god, how long was I on mute? How long was I on mute? What was the last thing?
Like 15. Last thing you said to wait for us sometimes, then you were gone.
Oh god, oh shit, shit. And thanks to Orchok, he messaged me if the class is over. I was thinking, what happened? And ow, shit. Anyway, the good thing is that I'm recording this, and it it got recorded. Whatever I said, I hope it got recorded. And I like went half of Marina. Ah, oh God, shit. Anyway, I think I have to go over. Okay, so that's why I never heard any one of you, like, saying anything. So sorry.
আমি আপনাকে মেসেজ করেছি এখানে, মানে এই গুগল মিটে, যেরকমটা নয় তো যে আপনি মিউট, আপনি জানেন না।
হ্যাঁ মানে yeah, I mean that was like 12:17, and I was going on. Okay, so there are a few questions. Why should we consider the naming of cats as a modern poem? Okay. Yeah, that's what happened. আমি পড়িয়ে যাচ্ছিলাম, and I was on mute. Okay, let's try to answer Onkita's question first. That why should we consider naming of the cats as a modern poem? I mean, we do not need to affirm that the naming of the cats is a modern poem. You can say that this is a traditional non modern poem, or a Victorian poem, or a very common poem where there is no modernity. You can say that. I mean, you can. I mean, when a question is asked, when a question is put forth to 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 say that, you are comment on this poem as a modern poem, um, you do not. It's not that you have to agree to the question that yes, it is a modern poem. You can say that it is not a modern poem. Okay, so at least somebody joined late, and this person did not undergo 20 minutes of silence from my end. So, Onkita, you can consider this as a modern poem, or you might consider it as a traditional non-modern poem, style-wise. But if you are saying that this is a modern poem because it is written by a modern poet, because it was published in a collection in 1939, that adds some modernity to the poem, and because of its colloquial diction, because of its uh, layers of allusions and layers of allegories, and its inherent satire, and the fact that cats became more of a glorified pets um, at the turn of the century, because cats were not really considered to be very. Cats were not there in the pre-modern texts that much. But I do not have much knowledge whether cats were always there in literature, and always had a lot of importance accrued to them in literature. But as far as my knowledge goes, cat is something. The subject of the cat was introduced with the in the turn of the century, that is the 20th century actually. And as an example, I can refer to Game of Thrones. Why Game of Thrones? Because Game of Thrones is a medieval um, text, and we do not find cats over there. But in uh, modern movies set in the modern world, we have lots of cats. Okay, but even in the Victorian period, Victorian paintings, Victorian literature, I think we have cats. But the importance of the cats became more pronounced uh, in the 20th century. Okay, and could somebody hazard a guess as to why this happened? Anyone?
So can you repeat again the question?
The question is, why do you think cats became more important in the modern age? I mean, that will answer to some extent Onkita's question, that why should we consider naming of the cats as a modern poem, other than the technical reasons? Why is cat so important today? Why are cats so important today? Well, one of the reasons which you might agree with me or disagree is that in modern world, the modern world is a lonely world. Modern world is a fragmented space. We, as human beings, we do not connect with other human beings, and this vacuum, this void, needs to be filled with some other stuff, and hence cats. We do not have very close relationships or bondings with human beings anymore, but we are more um, we are more near, we are more emotionally connected to animals, because human beings are not to be believed anymore. You might agree or disagree, but I believe one of the reasons for the importance of the pets in our life seems to have stemmed from this lack of communication, lack of human to human communication, where the communication with cats or dogs or other animals have become more important. They fill the void that the modern world has created in our lives. Okay, so that partially answers your question, Ankita. And if we have time later, we will try to discuss the questions that we mentioned. I think I provided some probable questions related to the poems. Could somebody confirm? Did I provide probable questions related to these poems?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. So you had written them down in your copies, right? Kia?
Yes, sir.
And I think somebody provided the entire list to the you know to the group, or was it just the list of the poems that we are going to do?
The list of the poems.
List of the poems. So Kea, do one thing. Type out the all the questions that I provided to you in the classroom, so that we will all have the questions. And if it is too much, yeah, Kea.
Hi, yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. And do message in the group to mention that the class is still on, and if somebody had left, uh, they should come back. I don't know if there are like um, anybody who left. I'm sorry for that. Okay, so I'll go over Marina once more, so that we could be on the same page. But just a minute. Okay. No. What should I do? Should I go over and yeah? Okay. I'll just go over. All right. So I am sure that you were reading the poem where when I was on mute, and I think I was talking about the first line of the poem. Qui hic locus que regio que mundi plaga. I'm and I think you have found out the meaning by looking it up in Google. Who has done that? If you have not, do it.
So it's in Latin,
Mhm. Yes.
and it means what place is this, what region, and what area of the world.
Right. Yes. So why do you think? I mean, philosophical? What philosophical associations can we gain from this particular question? And there is another studious student in the room, I guess. Yes. Yes. Ruksha. Or anyone can jump in and try to point towards the direction at which this 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 question is directed. It's a, I would say it's a philosophical question. But what philosophy is enunciated in this very first line? Anyone?
Sir, could you please repeat the question?
So have you heard these questions, Ria? The questions from the poem, I mean.
So does it mean that we are going somewhere from point to point, from shore to shore, but we really have nowhere to go, and we are going like nothing in mind, pointlessly moving?
So, what kind of a philosophy is that?
What kind of philosophy? Like I have to name a philosophical thing?
Yes, you have to name the philosophy because you might need it in your term paper, you might need it in your dissertation.
Hmm.
Ria, did you get the question now?
No, sir.
No, you did not get the question still.
Yes, I did not.
Okay, so
I did not hear properly, so that's why I just can't
do you have the
connect with.
do you have the poem in front of you, Ria?
Yes, sir.
Can you read the first line of the poem? What is the first line, Ria? Anybody can jump in, anybody can send in a message and try to say that yes, Rupsha has pointed us towards the right direction.
Sir,
Hmm. Yes, Ria. Okay, Onkita wants to say something. Onkita,
Sir,
go on.
Greek philosophy.
Greek philosophy. What? Which Greek philosophy? Which one? I mean, there are many philosophers from Greece. Which philosopher are you talking about? And why? Rupsha wanted to say that our ignorance of our location makes us roam about the place in a kind of a in a pointless way, in a way that we are not sure what is going on, what is happening, what is wrong, what is right, where are we do not have any moral compass. I mean, we do not have any geographical compass, which is a metaphor for the lack of a moral compass. Well, you see, these questions that are being asked, which region is this, what is our location, what place on earth are we right now, are existential questions. So we might be talking about existentialism.
Sir, we can also talk about nihilism here.
What is nihilism, Rupsha?
It's the nihilism that talks about human existence. I don't know exactly about the topic, but in the last semester I read about human existence in maybe in Keats's poem, but I don't know the definition. But this is something about human existence.
Nihil.
So as we are moving without any knowledge as where we are going, this is we are having a existential crisis that is leading us to a nihilism kind of philosophy. I don't know if I am getting it right.
No, it's okay. I mean, we don't need to be right all the time or even at all. No, yeah. See, nihilism is a philosophy which believes in the destruction of life,
Hmm. Oh,
which believes in the pointlessness of the entire existence.
oh,
Okay,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
Nietzsche was one of the proponents of nihilism.
Yes, yes, yes,
Uh,
yes.
Nihilistic philosophy believes that the best way to solve all our problems is all of us to die. There's no point in existing. However,
Oh,
yes, Ruksha?
oh no, then that must not be applied here, not in this case.
No,
No.
not in this case because these questions are not directed at the fact that our existence is pointless. The question here, the
Yes,
philosophical question is why we are here. What is
yes,
this
that
place?
yes, that can be what you said, existentialism or absurdism.
Yeah, absurdism, okay. Absurdism can
Yes.
be absurdism can be a point here. Absurdism, because we, meaning th- our location is not clear to us,
Yes.
and hence we
Yes.
are not, not, we are not in the knowledge
Mm.
of ourselves, or of whatever we are going, or whatever we are doing. That's okay. That's all right.
Yes.
So let's move forth with the poem. So the question then comes to another, gives birth to another set of questions. What seas, what shores, what grey rocks and what islands, what water lapping the bow, the scent of pine and the wood thrush singing through the fog, what images return, oh my daughter. So um, here T.S. Eliot uncharacteristically seems to be talking to, or talking about, um, his daughter. I mean, we do not find uh, we do not find Eliot's personal life mentioned a lot in his poems. Though I would say that the poems that we have read is only 1% perhaps, or even not that, of the entire over of Eliot. But Eliot himself pointed out that, poetry should be an escape from emotions, rather than a manifestation, rather than uh, a proliferation, rather than a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. And when we are talking about our daughter, or when we are talking about our loved ones, we tend to get emotional. But I guess T.S. Eliot is reminiscing, T.S. Eliot is remembering, he is being nostalgic, um, about a vacation on a beach, and maybe he had never been to that particular place, and he is, you know uh, he is questioning. He tries to understand that, what is this place, what is this sea, what is the name of the sea, what are these gray rocks, what are the islands, and the scent of the pine, or the wood thrush, which is a bird, songbird. And the songbird is not very clear to us. We cannot see the songbird because the song is coming through the fog, and this is a typical image of haze that we find in modern poetry. Okay, and as far as the critical appreciation of the poem is concerned, we can say that, a kind of a synesthesia is mentioned here, because one sense is standing in for another sense. Wood thrush is mentioned as a songbird, but we cannot see the songbird, but we can identify the songbird by hearing the song of the bird, but it is coming through the fog. Now, the next stanza is a little cryptic, and you can mention that a figure of speech called Ipanephora. I'll write the spelling here in the text box. Ipanephora. Okay. So, what happens in Ipanephora is that when you encounter the same word or the same phrase being repeated in the beginning of each line, or successive lines. So those who, these this is an example of an epanephora. But the lines are cryptic, the lines are difficult, Eliotish, typically difficult for us to unpack the metaphors encoded in these lines. So those who sharpen the tooth of a dog, of the dog, You know about the mythical references of dogs, right? You have read Metamorphosis, and in that poem, we found that Actaeon's dogs, uh, his own dogs, killed him because Actaeon was transformed into a deer. Yes, Ria. Ria, you want to say something?
No, sir. There is a lot of network issue. I'm not seeing something, anything.
Okay, all right. No, I saw your hand up, so I thought. So, um, whoever sharpens the tooth of dog, and dogs were typically, or even still are typically used to hunt down prey, to hunt down other animals. And dogs are used by the police to hunt down criminals. But if we sharpen our weapons too much, maybe a reference to the nuclear weapon, if we sharpen our tooth, if we sharpen our teeth too much, it will bring our death. Okay, so that might be the meaning of this line. Those who glitter with the glory of the hummingbird. Hummingbird have a short span of life because I mean that's how they are, and because they use a lot of energy in order to fly back, and hummingbirds are peculiar for being the only bird that can fly backwards. And if you are a hummingbird, or if you are very flashy, or if you have a lot of color, you might be easily spotted by other animals and you can be attacked. Or you yourself have a lot of you yourself have a very short span of life. That could be the meaning as to why it means death, why the glory of the hummingbird means death. And it's a paradoxical sentence. There's another figure of speech here, which is paradox. Putting glitter and glory and death all in the same line could be antithetical as well. Those who sit in the sty of contentment. So once you are contented, your life is over. George Bernard Shaw was of the same view, and he pointed out that if you think that you have done enough in your life and you're contented, then that's over for you. And if you who suffer the ecstasy of the animals, if you enjoy your life like animals do instinctually, without a thought about the future, hedonistically, then too it will your life will end quickly. So enjoying your life, enjoying the suffering, the ecstasy of the animals, um, also means death. But all these things, all those who do these things become unsubstantial. Look at the strange use of the grammar here. Are become, not have become. Okay, so poetic license, of course, but these people become unsubstantial. They are reduced by the wind, by the breath of a pine, the wood song, fog, and by this grace dissolved in place. So they become unsubstantial, they do not mean anything anymore, and the nature takes over. The, the wind, the breath of the pine, and the song that is being sung by the wood thrush, the fog, all these things take precedence over those people who sharpen the tooth of the dog, who glitter in the glory, and so on and so forth. Also, we understand by this word grace. Now, this falls under the category of the choice of words, this falls under the category of diction, the use of the words. So, by this word grace, this choice of the word grace, T.S. Eliot is reinforcing his Catholic belief that grace is a religious term, and grace is to be found everywhere, God's grace, and it is dissolved in this place also. So there is a spiritual connection of the human beings with the particular place as well. Next section. What is this face less clear and clearer, the pulse in the arm less strong and stronger, given or lent, more distant than stars and nearer than the eye, Whispers and small laughter between leaves and hurrying feet, under sleep where all the waters meet. What is this face? Less clear and clearer. So, when you meet someone, when you encounter a face, you remember the vivid lines of the face, you remember the eyes, you remember the nose and other features of the face, but with time, they become less and less clearer. They fade away with time. So does the pulse in arm become less strong and stronger. Less and less stronger, but he's saying less strong and stronger. So the pulse in the arm, the face that you have seen somewhere, both of these things become weaker with time. What are these things? This face, this pulse in the arm, are they given or lent? Have God given us, or have we taken them as a, or have we borrowed our breath from God? Sometimes we often imagine, sometimes we think, or poets say that we have borrowed everything, we will use them just like a book from library, and we will return it back to where it belonged. Our lives are also like that. We we have taken something on lease. We have taken a kind of a, we have borrowed something, and when it will be our time, when our time will be up, when we will die, we will give it all back. More distant than stars and the nearer than the eye. At the same time, and in an antithetical statement, T.S. Eliot is saying that these things, these faces, these pulses, these life, this love, these human emotions, sometimes when a long length of time passes, we feel that they are more distant than the stars are. You know, a simple thing is that sometimes we chat with a person continuously for a long length of time. That person becomes quite close to us, and then with time, we don't talk to that person that much, and the chat goes way down, way below our WhatsApp chats. And then suddenly, when we realize that, oh my god, he or she had sent a message and we have not replied, and it's 2 years. So that person, that face, that emotion becomes more distant than the stars, even if they stay nearer to the eye. Sometimes differences crop up between spouses or friends, and though they stay near to each other, there is a kind of a distance that uh, that is there, and this distance is is the distance between the stars, which cannot be bridged. Though they stay nearer than the eye, the distance of emotional differences, perhaps which cropped up between T.S. Eliot and his daughter, or his wife, um, could not be bridged, and hence um, the this distance is there between these two people, or the memories and us. Whispers and small laughter between leaves and hurrying. Now, this is the daughter. The daughter talks in whispers. She is playing truant. She is getting naughty. She's laughing, which babies laugh in a very pretty way, and then they run. They play in the leaves. So, all of these things have become distant than the stars. Though Eliot's daughter perhaps is staying very near to her, all these great things, all these cute things that he has encountered is now getting distant and more distant in terms of time. All of these things are under sleep. They are over. They have ceased. The whispers, the small laughter, the hurrying feet, they have all ceased. But where all the waters meet, I do not know where this water came from. Perhaps this water is drawn from the sea, where the seas and the rivers meet in a kind of an estuary, in a kind of a meeting point between two bodies of water. Water of the eye, which is salty like the sea. And since we are talking about sleep, since the sleep is mentioned, uh, we, we usually associate sleep with eyes, and it is the tears which flow from the eyes. So I guess there is this vague connection, and this is a modern poem, and this is a proper modern poem where the symbols, where the allusions, where the meanings are very vague, and it is through our imagination that we are trying to, build a connection which might not even be there. Okay. Bowsprit, bowsprit cracked, and ice and paint cracked with heat. What is a bowsprit? Let me find out. Somebody can beat me to it. A spar running out from a ship's bow. Okay, okay. So it's a kind of a um, an appendage to the to a ship. Okay, a kind of a projection of wood outside in ships that were produced earlier, manufactured earlier, not anymore. So the bowsprit cracked with ice. So the ice made the bowsprit crack. It damaged the ship. The ice damaged the ship, perhaps an iceberg. And at the same time, the paint that is put on the ship, cracked with heat. It was so hot that the paint evaporated. The paint, চকলা উঠে যায় না কোনো পেইন্টের, তো সেরকম it happened with the ship. I made this, I have forgotten and remember. I made this. What has he made? Has he made his daughter? Is he talking about God making this universe and then forgetting and then remembering again? Is he talking about a half written poem? Because it can usually happen that when we are writing a poem, um, we we uh, we start it, but sometimes after starting, there's a gap of 4 or 5 years maybe, and then it stops, and then we come back to it in the middle of something, and we try to finish the poem. We don't know how we do it. uh, we, uh, we we started with something, but we ended with something else. I think the same is happening with uh, Eliot also. Eliot perhaps had started writing the poem when he was younger, and then he uh, saw this poem again. He remembered, and then he started to finish it. That is why there might be shifts. There might be semantic shifts. মিনিংটা পাল্টে যাচ্ছে, মিনিংটা বদলে যাচ্ছে এখানে, মানে যে প্যারাডাইমটা চেঞ্জ হয়ে যাচ্ছে, যেটা দিয়ে শুরু হয়েছিল সেটা থেকে সরে গিয়ে অন্য কোনো জায়গায় চলে যাচ্ছে পোয়েমের স্ট্রাকচারটা. The rigging weak and the canvas rotten between one June and another September. Or perhaps T.S. Eliot is talking about a ship that he owned, a yacht that he owned, and the rigging became weak. And the canvas was torn because it was a wind-driven yacht, a skiff. Between one June and another September, so within a few months, within the months of June and September, the skiff, the boat that T.S. Eliot was using for his vacation maybe is gone, is rotten, has broken down. The garboard strake leaks, the seams need caulking. So there are many issues with the yacht that Elliot might be working at. So there's a leak and there's something called caulking needs to be done. I think maybe putting a new layer of wood or something like that. This form, this face, this life, living to live in a world of time beyond me. This form, whose form do you think he is talking about? Time to wake up. Ongira. Whose form is T.S. Eliot talking about? What form? Ongira? Ongira has fallen asleep. Okay. Trijit, see, we are reading this line. Um, this form, this face, this life, living to live in a world of time beyond me. Whose form? Which life is being talked about here? Whose face? Anyone who could answer this question can um, tell me. Just guess. Yes, the daughter. The daughter is being mentioned here, that even after his life is over, this face, this form, this life will live in this world beyond my time. Time beyond me. Because there might be a semblance between T.S. Eliot and his daughter's face. Let me resign my life for this life, my speech for that unspoken. The awakened lips parted, the hope, the new ships. What seas, what shores, what granite islands towards my timbers, and wood thrush calling through the fog, my daughter. So he wants to resign his life for this new life, for the life of the daughter. He wants to sacrifice his speech for whatever is unspoken. Whoever is awakened, whoever has parted their lips to speak, there is hope. There are new ships. Old ships will die. Old ships will have their riggings weak, canvas rotten, um, the garboard will leak, but there will be new ships. There will be new hope. There will be speech. There will be new life in the form of our children. What seas, what shores, what granite islands towards my timbers. So again, the end of the poem is with questions, but these questions are not the same questions of existential nature. These questions are the questions of affirmation. These are rhetorical questions. He knows what seas he is referring to. He knows what shores he is referring to. He knows what granite islands. He knows what timbers and the wood thrush that is calling through the fog. And he passes on this information, he passes on this hope to his daughter. And the daughter, according to Eliot, or according to Eliot's hope, Eliot can continue, Eliot can live, Eliot's hope, Eliot's intelligence, Eliot's legacy can live through these, through his daughter, within this space, within this area that is being referred to here. Okay, so that's all I have to say about this poem. If you have any questions, you can ask them, or we will